everyone. I had a request this week to focus a practice on hamstrings, or probably more appropriately thinking about the backs of our legs. So hamstrings are a major part of that, but we're thinking about releasing tight, tired legs. So this will be a great practice for any of you runners out there who've been doing lots of extra running in this time we've got, or maybe the cyclists, or even people who've just been doing a lot more sitting. So a good 20-25 minute exercise here for you to stretch out and feel some release through the back of the legs. Okay, so we're going to start coming to the back of your mat. So bring your toes right to the back of your mat. Come to a kneeling position if that's comfortable for you. And you can always pop a blanket underneath your heels if this will give you a little bit more space. Find where you can find some comfort and ease here. So maybe moving the body a little bit just to find your centre. Slowing down the breath and lengthening the inhale and the exhale. So we're seeing if we can smooth out that breath. Next time we inhale, we're going to take the arms up and overhead, looking up towards the fingers, stretching through the spine, exhaling the hands down, taking them round the back, interlacing the fingers, sending them away. So as we send those fingers down, we're squeezing the shoulder blades together, taking that chest upwards and forwards, maybe taking the chin up as well, so stretch through the back. Now keeping your hands interlaced if you can, think about reaching that heart forwards, chest forwards as we start to come down, as the arms come up and overhead. So just feel that stretch to the shoulders for a couple of breaths here. And then release the hands, send the fingers forwards and stretch through your extended child's pose. Start to roll the body forwards. Take the forearms down so that you're on your forearms and your hands are spread. So you've got spread fingers. The eye gaze is looking down, directly down. If you can, try to get your forearms parallel. So have a look and see if your elbows are sticking out. Can your elbows end up underneath your shoulders? Really engage in the fingers. We're going to tuck the toes and start to lift the body into a dolphin pose. So as you lift the body, let that chest come down, stretching through the legs. And as you exhale, we're going to reverse that by bending the knees, coming back to that all fours with your hands, your forearms on the mat. So we'll do that a couple of times. So really engage as much as you can. You really want to feel all of your fingers engaged and your whole forearm engaged as we start to lift the hips, stretching through the legs. And slowly come down. So make this really slow movement. Don't worry if your legs don't fully extend. Back up. And slowly down. So wakening up the shoulders a bit. We're just going to do that 2 more times. See if you can find a bit more length in the legs each time. Slowing down the movement as you come back to the mat. This is the last one. Lengthening those legs, sending that chest towards the thighs. Slowly sending those knees back to the mat, untucking the toes, and coming back to full child's. So it's where we swim the arms around the body and let the forehead come down. Taking the body back up to all fours. Let's spread those hands once more. Keeping the arms long this time. Bring the legs together so your knees are together. Tuck the toes and start to push the body back. So the same movement we were doing before, but this time we're just on our hands rather than our forearms. Keeping the knees bent. So now we're stretching through the back, through the upper body. So push the mat away with your hands. Really push it away to extend through the back. Keep those knees bent. And then slowly come back down. So we're going to repeat that a couple of times. So the key is really keeping your toes tucked because you want that strong connection with the mat. Keep your fingers well spread, more gecko hands. And this time, so as you push the mat away, keep those knees together, draw the tailbone up. Slowly come down. We're going to do that 2 more times. So when you're ready, start to push and extend through the arms, extend through the chest. Send the hips up, bend those knees. So you're sitting back, finding a stretch through the back. Slowly bending the knees, coming back to all fours. Last time, push that mat away, send the hips high. And then this time we're going to start to extend the legs. So as we come to our downward dog, you'll extend each leg, maybe pedaling out a little bit. And then settle here for a couple of breaths. So just take your time, really settling in. Just find your breath. And then we're going to take the right leg up, keeping the hips and the shoulders really squared onto each other. So the leg doesn't have to come very high. Bend the right knee. Slowly start to draw it through the body. And then help it if it needs it. We're going to swing that right leg forwards, between the hands, lowering the left knee and untucking the left toes. So we're going to end up in a low lunge. We want to take a look at that right heel, making sure it's directly underneath that right knee, as long as the knee's not coming over. So if you need to adjust your stance, maybe you need to shift your left leg back. If you can, try to plant your hands down. So if your hands don't reach the mat, this is where blocks can be handy, or adjust your stance. See how much contact we can have with the mat here. And as you exhale, sink those hips down. So we're starting to stretch through that right upper hip and around maybe the glute. You might be able to feel it even into your quad. So start to let go of that right hip. Now as we're here, you might find there's some movement. So you may need to shift back your left knee to create, as you've created a little bit more space. So align your shoulders to your hips, keeping that contact with the mat. Using your out breath, your exhale to release. Just look up and extend the spine. So we're now looking ahead of ourselves, ahead, straight ahead. Using your inhale to find a little bit of space and using your out breath to drop the hips. So stick with your breath, find that nice rhythm. Leaving your back leg where it is, we're going to shift the hips back, coming into a long leg on the right leg. Now it might mean you have to creep the right foot forwards. So we're coming into a half split here, or a runner's stretch. As you draw the right toes towards your face, you'll find this stretch intensifies. So if it's too much to have the right toes up, you can can relax that right foot, have it down. So find the stretch that works for you. Now as your hands come back, watch you're not rounding your back, desperately trying to get the head to the knee. Try taking the hands a bit further back. Even again, you can use some books or something just to balance your hands on to raise the chest. Lengthening the spine just as we did when we were in our lunge. Now think about your hips. Can we draw back that right hip? And as you do so, you might feel your right heel, a little bit of resistance on the mat, as if you're drawing that right hip really far back. And as you do so, allow that left to come forwards to feel the squaring of your hips. So your hips and shoulders should be in a line. Now start to use your breath to lengthen in the back. Maybe there's sinking forwards, but don't compromise this pose by trying to curve the back. You won't be getting any stretch out of it by doing that. We're simply trying to get into that right hamstring. So that's the focus of this pose. So make any adjustments that you need to feel the stretch in your own body, not worrying about what it looks like or trying to emulate shapes that I'm making. It's more about how it's feeling for you. So see if you can stick with this for a couple more breaths. And then walking the hands forward, you're going to rock onto that front foot again. So plant that right foot down. Tuck the toes of your left foot. See if you can tuck those under. Take your hands back so they're in the middle of the mat. And then slowly start to lift that back leg. Now both legs might not come straight, that's fine. We're seeing if we can make a broad triangle with our legs, sending the left hip and the left heel back and the right hip back. Planting that right foot onto the mat. Now turn your hands so they're facing behind, so the fingertips are facing your back leg. Reach the body forwards and start to sink here. So a strong stretch. This is a modified triangle pose. So make, again, any adjustments. If you need to come out of this, or if you need a little bit help to come higher, or perhaps you need to shorten your stance. If you're feeling your balance is a bit wobbly here, heel toe that right foot a little bit wider on the mat so that your feet are in train tracks rather than in a single line. That'll just give you a wider base of support. So start to breathe into this, lengthening that chest forwards and down. More important to keep the hips nice and level. And then slowly we're going to take the fingers forward, start to bend that right knee. So you're now coming to a high lunge, square those hips off once more. Now find your focus because we need the balance now. We're going to take the hands off the mat, inhaling the arms up, seeing if you can keep that right knee bent. Reach and come to high crescent lunge, sending that left heel back. So you're lengthening in the left leg. See if you can send the back of the knee of the left leg away. So you're really stretching through that left leg. Keep the breath nice and even here. If you can breathe in and out through the nose, that's great. And then on the next exhale, slowly with control, take the hands to frame that right foot and peel the right foot back so that we end up in our downward facing dog. So stretch that right leg by sending the right heel towards the mat, bending the left leg. So just enjoy your stretch here. You'll be able to feel all the work that you've done on that right leg. And then even it out by finding your downward facing dog. And then we'll take the left leg up. doesn't have to be very high, we're just raising that left leg, bending the knee, starting to draw the knee towards the chest, and help it if it needs it. Place the left foot down between the hands, lower the right knee, untuck the toes, and start to find your alignment here. So go through that checklist, watching that if you've sunk the hips down, the knees popped forwards ahead of that left knee, just to make sure it's directly over the left knee. Maybe sending that right leg back a little bit to give you more space. See how, if we can plant the hands, or maybe we're on the fingertips. Sinking the hips and finding where the hips align with the shoulders. So that might mean peeling back that left hip a little, drawing the right hip forwards. And then when you can feel that alignment, start to take the eye gaze slightly up so that we can open and lengthen in the chest. Finding a little bit more space to move into here. So you might be already noticing that one side is different to the other. That's absolutely fine. It's just a good place to do this nice and slowly so that we can really get into each side and really think about how the body is responding to these movements. How does the stretch feel for you today? So on your exhale, slowly sending the hips back. You may need to creep that left leg forwards, taking the option that works for you. Perhaps having a flat foot, you can feel this stretch is more effective for you. Perhaps if you want more, you're drawing the toes up towards the face, which will bring a greater, stronger stretch through the back of leg of the left leg. Sink the hips back and watch that that right knee is still at right angles. You haven't sunk the bottom down towards the right calf. So come up a little, give yourself space in the chest. Don't immediately bend through the back. We want that back to stay long. Ideally, you really want to feel a hinging movement through the hips rather than the back curving. So that's where our focus is. Keep drawing those toes up, sending the back of the left knee down towards the mat. Making appropriate movements, so perhaps we need a little bit of bend in the elbows, perhaps we want to come out a little and reach the chest forwards. If we're right at the edge of our pose and we're gritting our teeth for dear life, maybe we need to flatten that foot now. Maybe we can get more out of the stretch that way. Just continue to breathe into those areas of tightness, using your out breath just to release any tension. And then when you're ready, slowly moving forwards, tucking the right toes under and lifting the right leg. So we're now stretching through the length of that right leg, sinking the hips down once more. We're going to find our balance, so we're going into a high lunge in a moment, so let's find, you know, we need to do the longer stretch first. So, yes, plant the left foot, draw that right leg nice and long, and start to sink the hips back as the fingers come back, so making that triangle pose again. So you could have one knee slightly bent. It doesn't matter if the legs aren't really straight. You will know where that stretch is appropriate. So again, really tune into how it feels rather than how it looks. And this pose, really focus on the hips. Do we need to draw that left hip back? The right hip forwards, lengthen through the spine, and then find your stretch as you sink down. Slowly creeping the hands forwards, bending that left knee so you're back into your lunge, hugging the hips together. We're going to slowly start to lift that body up as we come into our high crescent lunge. Finding your centre, finding your breath. And then slowly with control, let's exhale the hands to frame the foot. Really spread those fingers and peel back that front leg, lengthening through the front leg. So you're going to really send that left heel down towards the mat as you bend the right leg. Really enjoying this stretch. Releasing the right hip, the right psoas. Letting the chest come down. And then lengthen the right leg as well so that we come into your full downward facing dog. Start to bend the knees once more, bringing the feet together. So we're going to come back to where we started. So as the knees bend, send that chest down. Come onto the toes as you send the body forwards. So a bit of core work here. And if you can, we're going to hover those knees just above the mat as you come into your all fours, finding your strength through your core. Lower the knees, untuck the toes and slowly sink the hips back as you reach the fingers forwards. Find some space. And then swim the hands all the way around into your full child's pose. Reach the arms forwards. Slowly take the body back up onto your knees. Inhale the arms up and overhead. Create lots of space here and length through the spine. As you exhale, take the hands behind the back. As you interlace them, just move all the fingers on one finger so that you're in the weird way. You've got a slightly different feel. Send the hands down the back. As the chest opens, those shoulder blades hug into the body. And you can come to as much as the back bend as feels appropriate. Maybe you really want to into the neck as well, so we can do this either staying here or just taking the head slightly to one side and then slightly to the other. You'll just find it gets into those tendons, those muscles that can really hold a lot of tension for us. And as we exhale, keeping the hands clasped, if you can, take the body forwards and the arms up and overhead. Inhale, come all the way back. So we're reversing that as we come back to centre. Release the fingertips. Take the palms and face them upwards, this time onto the knees. Just relax the elbows, close down the eyes. And tune back into your breath. Using each inhale to draw in energy and use each exhale just to release any tension that you feel that's still residing in the body. So maybe your shoulders have been woken up by that stretch to the back. Exhale and relax the shoulders. Maybe the hips have had a good workout. Can we find some softness there? Smooth out your inhale and exhale. See if you can make them the same length. Keep your mind on your breathing. And if it does wander, just gently bring it back to focusing on your inhale exhale and just reflecting on how the body is feeling now. And if you want a bit more, then you can play this again. Repeat these movements you've been doing. And you might find you can get a little bit deeper into those legs. Maybe there's a bit more release. Try not to get stuck on the things that were challenging. Try to find the areas that gave you some release. So thank you very much today.